here with you all. And I will note that since sometime in the spring, I can't remember, we've been following lessons of the 12 powers. However, I noticed that Reverend Lily was speaking about the power of release last week.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
saw
want
that.
to be redundant,
Yeah.
but I do want to mention that I'm hoping that those of you who've been following along will read the chapter on release in divine audacity and kind of stay up with our study of that. And I trust that Reverend Lily did a wonderful job because she's wonderful.
She is.
So.
She's good.
She's awesome. So I've chosen a different message, and I'm actually going to read the description that I wrote to kind of get us started off. That the name of this message is The Dance of Love and Fear. There's no greater joy in this life than sharing love, receiving love, being the hands and the voice of the power of love. So why is it that we so often let fear get in the way? So we're going to take a deep dive today, or at least a brief dive into the dynamics of love and fear. And I actually wrote this message to be delivered the Sunday right before Halloween. And I had such a good time with it that that's why I decided to kind of bring it back here and work with it a little bit more. And so Halloween is a time of year where we kind of have fun with fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ghosts and decorating and all those kinds of things. So fear can be fun, right? And some people really enjoy spooky movies or roller coasters or things like that. I'm not one of those people, but some people really enjoy that, right? And yet we know also that fear can really be something that shuts us down and diminishes our capacity. So today we're going to kind of look at love and look at fear and see how they have the potential of working together. So I often like to start off with just the basics of looking at definitions of things. It really helps me kind of get grounded as to what it is that I'm talking about, because so often, we use words all the time, but it really is when you kind of really take a look at what does this word mean. So I started off by looking at love, and when you look in the, these days it's not opening up a dictionary, is it? It's looking online.
Mm-hmm.
And, very often I will go to Merriam-Webster online, and the definition there is for sure geared around the emotion of love, and it being affection or attraction. And in Unity, we look at it in some different sorts of ways. So one of the places that I looked to start was the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. So that's one of the foundational resources that we use in Unity courses to look at the Bible in ways that help us bring it to having meaning in our lives right here, right now. So the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary defines love as a divine attribute, an idea in the one mind. And it says, God is love, and love is God. God is love, and love is God. So in the entirety of the Bible, God is actually only defined in two places. And in one place it says God is spirit, and the other place in the Gospel of John it says God is love. So we're not talking about the emotion of love, but the power of love. So in Unity, when we talk about the power of love, we're literally talking about the energy of the universe is love. Sometimes we call it lots of different things. Sometimes we call it good or goodness. But and we describe it, this power, as being unifying, as in it's an energy that brings together things that want to be together, like people in a room, or the elements of a recipe that make it wonderful and perfect. Things coming together, and it's the energy, that's what we're calling love, is that energy that brings us together. And also we talk about harmonizing power of love. So this can be a little bit tricky because what we're talking about at that point, we're kind of talking about aspects of our consciousness. So we will, through our power of love, attract ourselves, and again, attracting ourselves, that's an aspect, that's that magnetizing aspect of love. We will draw ourselves to circumstances that are in alignment with whatever beliefs and thoughts we are carrying in our consciousness. So this can work in ways that feel like it's not a good thing in our lives. So for example, if you're carrying around a belief that says, I'm not smart enough, you will, because the power of love doesn't discriminate,
manifest.
You will attract yourself to circumstances that prove to your human mind, see, I knew I wasn't smart enough. So, but Unity provides us with tools where it's like, okay, when you can see this happening again and again in your life, Unity provides us with tools so that we can work on releasing that belief and replacing it with a belief that says, hey, that the divine intelligence of the universe is mine to use. So, but we're talking about love is that harmonizing. So your circumstances and the things you attract yourself to will be in harmony with whatever it is that you're holding in consciousness. And that is an aspect of the power of love. So this is the magnetizing power of love brings this person into the room who knows me well and has apparently come on the road to follow me. So, so that is the magnetizing power of love right there. This is Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
All right, so here's some more on the power of love, and this is from The Revealing Word by Charles Fillmore, and I just really love this quote. Love is an inner quality that sees good everywhere and in everybody. It insists that all is good, and by refusing to see anything but good, it causes that quality to appear in itself and in all things. So I just really love that, linking up love to good, because that's another definition. So I have a question for you. I've asked this question a few times to different groups. So what's the opposite of love?
Fear.
Fear.
Course in Miracles.
Exactly. It's a very frequent answer that people will say fear is the opposite of love. And you've already named where it comes from, because I might say, well, where does that come from? Because it is a belief that's held in New Thought communities. And yet I will tell you that in all of my years of studying Unity, I have never seen that there's ever affirmed an opposite of love.
Right. Just an absence.
So it's not actually, that belief is not actually present in the Unity teachings. That's not because let's go back. So we've defined love is God and God is love. And in Unity we talk about, we have what we call the omnis. So and we've covered that already because we talked about the first principle. So we talk about that which we call God being present in all circumstances at all times without limit. Fully present all the time. So we don't in Unity talk about the opposite of that.
No.
Because we're talking about oneness. And when you start teaching about the opposite of it, and there are names for that other religions will use, like Satan and the devil, and then you're not talking about oneness anymore, are you? You're talking about duality. Well, we're talking about oneness, that which we call God, as being fully present all the time without limit, and we're saying that God is love.
Interestingly, this goes back to the first principle, which we affirmed today.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. We already talked about this. And yet, when I say what's the opposite of love, there it is in our belief system.
Mhm.
So I just want to point out that in unity, that is not, the answer would be there is no opposite. Just like there is no opposite of God. Now, you can, in your human life, in your little human existence, you can certainly feel an absence of love, right? Just like you can feel an absence of all that is, an absence of God, depending on how your consciousness is showing up, right? But in our divine nature, where that infinite field is fully present all the time, there is no opposite. So let's look at fear. Because fear is definitely something that when it shows up in our human existence, we can allow it to minimize our experience of things. It throws us off our track of spiritual thinking, all those kinds of things. It can have a huge impact on us, right? So, but I feel like fear, again, gets a bad rep, because everything, I'm not gonna talk a lot about this book. I'm just gonna show you the title. And at some point, I hope that maybe we can circle back and talk about this book by Matt Kahn. Everything is here to help you. Everything. This goes along the lines with Unity teachings, some older teachings, not older, it's fairly recent, called Eye of the Storm. So I don't know if anyone has studied that. It's the same kind. Everything is here to help you. So, like I said, I'm not going to get into this book, but I like to bring a pile of books. There's a friend of mine in Richmond, a non-denominational minister, and she'll line up all the books before she starts talking. And her name is Reverend Alva Pope. She recently changed her last name. She'll talk about her books as her friends, and she likes to have lines. So, I usually bring books. So I brought my friend this book here. Everything is here to help you. And that would include fear. So let's look more deeply at fear. And again, I started with Merriam-Webster online. So the first definition is, sure enough, an unpleasant, often strong emotion caused by anticipation or awareness of danger. So in your human life, that's what fear is, right? The very next definition, profound reverence and awe. And then in parentheses, especially toward God. Think of that, profound reverence and awe. That kind of moment that takes your breath away. When you witness, something that is bigger, wider, deeper than your little brain has ever conceived. That's, it's not several lines down or maybe this, it's the next definition. It's like, here's the human definition and here's the definition of that word in our divine nature. Profound reverence and awe. And then sure enough, if you look in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, it does have lots and lots and lots of words, but it says it implies reverence or respect for the law of God.
Interesting.
So I recently, in the fall, I taught one of the Unity courses called The Christ. And I think I came here and we had to talk about the Christ. And in the Christ course, some people who were in the course, now most of the people were taking it for credit. So they're getting into the swing of things. This is one of the basic required courses. So some of them had some experience with metaphysical Bible interpretation and some hadn't, but so it was, my job to kind of get them warmed up on that a little bit. And we primarily use the resources that I've already mentioned, the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary and the Revealing Word. So I just asked them to go out and find and, define or interpret the phrase fear of the Lord. which shows up in the Old Testament several many times. Fear of the Lord.
Yes.
So I asked them to look it up, and sure enough, they found what I've just been talking about.
Yeah.
Reverence, respect, awe. And then they look up the Lord, and the Lord just is defined as your divine nature. So, you know, when you put that interpretation together, instead of fear of the Lord, like we just should be shaking because, you know, the universe is going to thwack us or smite us or punish us or something,
That's
is
smite, such a great word.
stepping into awe for the universe, divine nature. When they say the Lord, or when they refer to my Lord, that is your divine nature, your reference point for awareness of all that is. So it just changes the dynamics around everything. So that's one way of looking at fear. And I'd like to share a few more, because I'd really like us to maybe get to a point that when fear comes up, we can sort of look at it in a different way. So some of us might have been in situations. Have you ever been in a situation where you lose something, a person, a pet, a circumstance, an object, and you're in that point of realization of, I never realized how much it meant until it was gone. Ever had that? And very often in that moment of crisis, when whatever is threatened, like, oh, I loved this and it got melted or burned or lost or something, fear shows up. Fear shows up to show us, to reveal to us what we love that we might not have realized. It's kind of like it's pointing to, look, you know, you're worried about losing this because you love it. In the words of one of Unity's greatest teachers, the Reverend Dr. Paul Hasselbeck, he's really good at putting things in concise terms. Fear is evidence of love's presence. Fear is evidence of love's presence. Because it shows you what you love. And you might have been busy in your human life, in traffic, getting things done, that you might have not been paying attention, right? But fear is there to show you that. So what if we look at fear as a partner for love instead of the opposite? What if we allow fear to remind us of what's important? Because we might have forgotten, you know, like I was saying, we get involved with our outer human lives, we get involved with things we think we're supposed to do and all that kind of stuff, and we kind of lose track. So if we look at fear as a helper in that way, it kind of reframes it. It allows us to sort of step out of habitual ways of responding to fear. So very often when fear shows up, we go straight into those kind of instinctual reactions of fight, flight, freeze, all of those kinds of things, just right away. But what if you can catch yourself? What if after today, when fear shows up, you can take a moment and take a breath and just notice. Just notice what fear is there to tell you, rather than just reacting, which that's instinctual. So like, don't be blaming yourself for doing that. I mean, that's the way our brains are wired. Your brain is wired to keep you safe.
Right.
What if, you know, instead of just reacting, you take a breath and see what fear has to tell you. So back to when we were talking about definitions of the power of love. So one of those aspects is unifying. So if you think about a project or a phase that you've been through in life where, because you were practicing affirmations and positive thinking, you're noticing that everything you need, even though there were concerns and worries, everything you need is showing up, right? Everything you need is present for you. Been through that? Anyone? Where you're just like, wow, isn't this amazing? But there's still fear. what fear can be doing in that sort of unifying action of like, well, you're gonna move from this place to that, or you have a change in relationship or job or something like that, where you're really you're having an energy of unifying everything you need. Fear can be there to reveal to you what's missing, what you haven't gotten to yet. Fear can be there to go, but what about this? How's this going to affect your friendships? How is this going to affect that? So it doesn't have to be, oh, okay, I'm just gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater because I'm feeling fear.
Shutting down.
Yeah, shut down, run away. I mean, the things that we, do when we just react to it. Well, maybe it has information for you about what's missing in the field of manifestation. And in general, fear shows up to tell us when things are really important. You might feel like it's just a little decision about, well, I'm going to go this way instead of that, or maybe I'll dabble in painting, or maybe fear can show up to show you that the stakes are high with this. This is actually, it feels like an everyday decision to you, but it's actually something important. So it can show up in that way too. All kinds of good stuff that fear has for us. So I have this wonderful quote that I found online from a wellness advocate named Donna Martini. This was in the form of like a meme on social media or something. But I really liked it, so I kind of, followed it a little bit and found out a little bit more about Donna Martini. That's why I can tell you she's a wellness advocate. All right, so here she is saying, if we are being led in a certain direction by our soul, we can trust that when we work through the fear, we will enjoy our best, most divinely inspired outcome. I'm going to read this and then we'll go back and unpack it a little bit. Sometimes I remind myself that it would be more beneficial to be afraid of not going where soul wants me to go. That makes the fear legitimate and the journey that much more exciting. All right, so let's go back. And you have to unpack this because there's like a weird double negative in the middle of it that I sat in confusion about for a while. But the first sentence, if we're being led in a certain direction by our soul, we can trust that when we work through the fear, we will enjoy our best, most divinely inspired outcome. Notice she says work through the fear. She doesn't say run away, avoid. When fear shows up, you should just, shut down and not do anything. She's saying work through the fear. Well, how do you, work with it? It's showing up to tell you something. Let's hear what it has to say. Let's hear what it has to say, learn from it, grow through it, work through it, through whatever it is that it has to show you. Then the second sentence, sometimes I remind myself it would be more beneficial to be afraid of not going where soul wants me to go. So what she's saying here is that she would be more afraid of things just sort of blindly going smoothly because she's appreciating when fear shows up and enters into the dance, then she feels like she's more complete about having, worked through whatever it is that's going on in her path. So I really liked that. So I encourage you to consider fear as a friend, as a partner. So, and when it shows up, sit with it. Just sit down, again, don't react, run away, just sit with it and ask it what it has to tell you. What is here to learn? And I remind you, everything is here to help you. Everything is here to help you. So, when fear shows up, what is its role? And of course, in this month, as we head towards Thanksgiving, be grateful for whatever it is that fear is bringing you. And rather than the opposite of love, rather than having that pop up as your answer, perhaps fear is the dancing partner for love. And fear is evidence of love's presence. And be grateful and welcome it. So that's it for our message. And we're gonna take all that into a few moments of meditation, okay? So, wherever you are, folks online, and just take a few deep breaths and really kind of settle into your seat. And let's just kind of bring our attention to right here, right now. We've been talking lots of words, but right now let's just focus on the breath. Feel your body in the chair. And take your energy away from your headspace. And let's move it down into the heart space. So in our heart space, the energy is not about words and thinking and analyzing. It's about love. And our heart shows us in kind of along a continuum of, this feels good or this doesn't feel good. It's a simpler and deeper way of understanding. So in this heart space, I want you to go ahead and create a seat in your mind next to you for fear, for whatever fears you have. Just allow those fears to come and sit with you in this sacred space and be your friend, be your partner as we move into a few moments in the stillness together right now. And let's begin to bring our focus back again to this moment right here, right now. Just feel your body in your seat. Feel the air against your skin. And let's seal this time together with gratitude. Just grateful for all that love has to teach us, all that fear has to teach us. So we're going to seal this time as we often do with an affirmation. So here's our affirmation, my friends. You go ahead and open your eyes. Let me say this for you. I learn from the dance of love and fear, and I am grateful. Let me say it again for you. I learn from the dance of love and fear, and I am grateful. Let's say it again. I learn from the dance of love and fear, and I am grateful. So it